Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to understand how to make this framework data-driven framework. That means how to pass multiple set of data for the same test case. So for that, guys, data provider is there. We can pass data from the data provider. We can pass data from external Excel sheets too. For that, we need to add some dependencies in pom.xml. First of all, we'll get started with that. So here, we'll write Maven repository, open this link, and here we will write Apache POI. So guys, Apache POI is a plugin which we need to add in order to read data from external files. So I'll click on this, search for it. We already added these two Apache POI plugins like POI and POI OOXML, that is Open Office XML. Now we will be adding these two plugins too. That is Apache POI Scratchpad and POI XLN. So here we'll first click on this one, choose the version, copy this, and here we will paste it. Now we will be adding another dependency. So we will go back, choose this one, copy it, copy this, and paste it. Right click on your project, build project. So we have added the dependencies which are required to read data from external Excel sheets. So these are the dependencies we have. Now we will be moving to our test cases. So login test. Here, first of all, let me just quickly fix it. So first of all, I'll be writing the test case where I want to pass multiple set of data. So here I'm writing @test public void login. And here, first I want to pass it for username. So log, what is log? Log is my reference variable for POM class. So I'll write log dot type username. Here I can write the username which I want to pass over there. Orange HRM, that website's URL keeps on changing and the username password also keeps on changing. That was the main reason for showing you on this particular example. If data keeps on changing and I'm passing it over here, hard-coded values over here, again I have to come here and change these test cases again and again. Again, dependencies there. So I don't want any hard-coded value to be passed. In the description of this video, I will be giving you the username and password and URL for the Orange HRM website, which you can now use. So if you were using the previous link, you can use the new link, which is given in the description below. So you can use that. And if it will be changed, I'll keep on changing it over there. So recent one, the updated one is there in the description. You can use that username and password as well as the URL. So here, if I pass, guys, if I pass the hard-coded value here, let's say username I'm passing here is admin. Now in future, if username changes, I have to come to my test case and change it over here. Again, this is too much dependency. If I've written lots of test cases in which login is required, and then I want to get into the rest of the pages, I have to again change. I have to change it all the times. So what I can do here, instead of passing hard-coded value for username, as I know, I've already passed value for config.properties. Look at this. This is the username and password got changed. This is the password. You can use this value from now onwards. I have already given this in the description of this video. And this is the URL we have now. If I would have been passed these things in the classes, in my base class or in my test class, it would have been very difficult for me to change it. Here it is just one point of change. I came here, changed the URL, changed the username and password. Now coming to the point, here I have passed URL, username and password. Instead of passing hard-coded username in my test layer, I can pass this username here. So whatever value coming from config.properties for username, that I want to pass here. So how we do it? Same thing which we did in base class. So here you will write prop dot get property, and here you will write down username. Okay, what is the meaning of this? Meaning of this is that get property from my config.properties file, take property for this particular parameter. So here from my config.properties file, take value for this parameter. So whatsoever value is passed for this parameter, please pick it up and put it for username. This is done. Now second step is to enter password. So I'll write log dot type password. This is my method in POM. And here also you can write the same thing. Prop dot get property. And now I want to pass property for password. So instead of writing password over here, which is not recommended, we can take property of password from config.properties. So whatsoever value is passed for password, I can use it over here. This is done. Now my last is click on login button. So for that also we have created method dot click button. So these are the steps we want to perform over there. Now let's see how it works. Guys, I'm going to get one error for this. I just deliberately want that error to come to show you something over there. So I'm going to execute it. So my second test case got executed and it got failed. Let's see what is error. This is exception I'm getting, element not interactable exception. In interviews, mostly they ask you what different type of exceptions you found when you were executing your frameworks or when you were creating your framework. This is very good exception. This is one of the exceptions we get. The meaning of this exception is that element exists over there, but somehow Selenium is not able to interact with that element. And the element is this one, which is my username CSS selector. So if I go to my pom.package, pom.login, look at this. This is for this particular element, that this is not interactable. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'll inspect element for orange.hrm. So I'll first of all inspect element for that. So here I'll click on username, go to inspect. I'm going to choose ID. So this is what I'm going to choose, guys. When you first time saw that it was not giving you ID. So let's say I refresh it. I go to username, inspect it, see here. At the same time, it is giving you this option. It is the cursor is coming over here. When I just refresh this page and try to find out the element, it gave me this element, which will be refreshed after a few seconds. So now again, if I check it, so inspect, see, it's going here. So I am giving other element locator, but it is not interactable because elements are there, but still it's not interactable. So first thing I will be doing is I'll change it to ID. So Control C. And here, instead of CSS, I'm making it as ID. And I'm pasting value for ID here. All right, let's try to execute again this test case. So here I've changed the value for my username. I'm going to run this test case. Let me guys just prioritize this. First, I want title to be fetched. And then I want this test case to be executed. So I want to prioritize it. So priority is 2. Let's now execute it. So I'll click on run all. So let's see the result. It opened the browser, type the URL, coming from Git repository, coming from config.properties, enter username and password, clicked on login. See, so we changed the element locator over there and it solved the purpose. So this is how you can pass data from config.properties into your methods coming from POM. Now we will understand how to pass multiple set of data to this username or password. In order to do so, we need to pass data from external Excel sheet. Let's get started and understand how we do it. So first of all, we'll create a package in test Java, and the name of the package gonna be test data package. Here I will be passing data. In this package, you will be creating a class. So I'll write class here, and I'm writing name of the class as Excel sheet. So you can just click on finish over here. Now this class is created. Second step is you will be creating Excel sheet from which you want to pass data in the test case over here. So the data which I want to pass over here, that I'm going to write in separate Excel sheet, external Excel sheet. So I'll go to this package again, test data, where I'm going to keep my Excel sheet. So how to do that? You will right click on it, package name, you will right click on test data package, go to it properties, and this is the location where your test data is there. So you can click on this arrow mark here. It is to show in System Explorer. That means it's going to land you on your operating system files. So when you click on it, you land it over here. In test data, I'm going to create a file now. So let's say here, new worksheet. So I'm going to name it as details. Now we will write some data inside it. So I'm going to keep column names as username, and second column is password. So username and password. Here I'm going to write username as admin. Let's say password as admin123. Second username as admin. And let's say password as ABCD. Again, username as Scott. Password as XYZ. So I'm just trying different permutations and combinations. I'm going to save this. So close this file, go to your project, apply and close. Okay, so when you refresh your project over here, click on refresh, you will see in your test data layer that details Excel sheet will appear here. Now in my Excel sheet Java, that is my Java class in test data layer, here I'm going to write code to fetch data from details. How to do that? Let's understand this. As we understood in TestNG data provider, whenever we want to fetch data from the Excel sheets, we need to create two-dimensional array, right? Rows and columns. So in this case, we will be creating object array because data which I'm going to fetch might be of different data types. Right, so I'm going to create an object array. Moreover, data provider also accepts object array. So first thing I'm going to do is I'll create object array. So I'll write public static because I want my object array to be used across the classes. So static. Then I will write object square brackets. I'm just going to name it as read data. And here I'll pass reference value as string sheet name. Now here in our base class creation, we understood that file input stream is a class which reads the input data from the files. So here also I will write file input stream reference variable name assign null. Why I'm writing null here? I'll let you know, guys. First, let me just import it. After this, I'm going to use, if you put your cursor over here, see, add return statement or change it to void. So at the end of this method, I will be adding some return statements. So first here, I will be using try catch block. We all understand that this is the file. So I want data to be read from the file here, details.xls. And with file, you can have lots of exceptions like file not found exception, input output exception. So I just want to handle those exceptions first. So I'm just declaring file input stream file is null. So I'm saying it is not right now referring to any object, because guys, if I'll put it in try, the scope of file input stream will be just in try, and I don't want its scope to be in try only. So I'm saying, okay, refer this to none of the objects, and now I want to use this file variable and assign value to it. So file assign new. So now this file is assigned to this particular object in which I'll be passing the path of the file I want to read. So new, I can write down here, file input stream. And now I will pass location of my file. So if you go to your Excel sheet here, details, this is my Excel sheet. I'll right click on it, go to it properties, take this path and paste it over here. Terminate it with semicolon. Now here I will use catch. So catch, now which exceptions I want to catch? First exception is file not found, space e dot print stack trace. Now second thing we need to implement over here is, guys, now see, from here we loaded the file in a file variable. Now we need to read worksheet and workbook. That is very important to understand. This is my Excel sheet. So guys, in this Excel sheet, this is called worksheet. You can have multiple worksheets. Look at this. This is your first sheet, second sheet. Of course, if you want to pass data from external Excel sheets, you need to pass the sheet number 2. So this is called worksheet. And this complete is called workbook. The complete Excel, this complete thing is called workbook. Now, in order to read data from Excel sheet, first of all, we need to create a workbook in this particular Java class. In order to do so, we simply write workbook factory dot create. So in create, you're going to pass this particular option, input stream inp. That means file coming from your input stream will be passed over here. So here I'll pass file. That means file which is being read by this input stream, please create it with the help of work factory. Guys, why we are creating with the help of work factory, why we are writing work factory dot create, you can understand this file can be in different extensions. Now Excel sheet can be in XLS as well as XLSX. Workbook factory auto detected and accordingly it's gonna create it. Now you can say that workbook factory is a factory for creating appropriate kind of workbook, be it XLS or XLSX, by auto detecting from the supplied input in file stream. So whatever you have supplied in file stream, it's going to read it from there, auto detected, and it's going to make appropriate kind of workbook because it's going to read it in Excel sheet. So we wrote it, put your cursor over here, add throw declaration. Whenever you are performing any action with any file, it must be under try catch because there might be many issues like as we already discussed. So let's say try, and what I want to catch in this case, let's say IO exception, input output exception, then start the curly braces, and here we'll simply write a dot print stack trace. All right, this is also handled. You can import this exception now. Let me just put this brackets outside. Here we go. So this is, I'm catching. So guys, workbook factory will create file according to its extension. It will auto detect and create workbook for it. As I've told you, workbook means the complete Excel sheet. So it's going to make that. Now, this workbook, I'm not going to use only in this try catch block, right? I want to use this class outside too. So I want to refer it outside too in my different classes. So here also I will be referring it with interface. So this is super interface for any workbook, and the name of that interface is, so here I'm going to write it, workbook, giving reference variable as book assign. So I'm saying this is my interface, refer all the methods from this interface and create a file. So workbook is my interface and this is my class, which has properties of auto detecting the type of the file and creating the workbook. Just to specify guys, there are two types of workbooks we have. One is called HSSF and other is called XSSF. So HSSF is for the older versions of Windows, whereas this one is for the new version of Windows. When I'm saying older, that means till 2003, HSSF is supporting, and after 2007 and after 2007 is supported by this type of format. In simple words, it is XLS and XLSX. So both are handled by Workbook Factory. Now, as I was telling you, if I'll declare it over here, the scope will be just inside try block. So I want to globally declare this because I want to use it in different classes. So I'm just going to copy this, put it on top after class declaration. And here I will write public static. Now here I can remove this workbook. Okay. So next code is, I've created the workbook. That means this workbook is created. This complete workbook is created with different sheets inside it. Guys, now I want to read the sheet. So I want to, from this workbook, I want to read this sheet. In order to do so, I'll go to my class here. I will be simply writing book, that means my workbook's reference variable, book dot, and now here I'll choose the method from this. So this is my workbook method. So method which I want to choose is to get the sheet. That means I want to read sheet from the workbook. So here I'll write get sheet, and I will be choosing this sheet name. Here I'll pass the sheet name. So let's understand the complete meaning. That means from my workbook, get the sheet, and sheet name is stored over here. You can pick up sheet name from here. In this, that means get me that sheet whichsoever is passed over here. If it is passed as sheet number 1, then get me data for that. If it is passed as sheet number 2, pass it over here and get me data. So I am passing this sheet name here. So from my workbook, get the sheet, which sheet, which is passing in this parameter, which is being passed in this particular parameter of my object array. So that sheet will be returned. Now guys, definitely in order to read the sheet, I need to store it in a variable. So the complete syntax you can say is sheet assign. So this is the class we will be using. Put your cursor on top of it and get this SS user model. So this one you will be picking up. Don't pick the SL one, pick SS one. So I'm going to choose this, and here we go. Now again guys, the sheet will be, we won't be using this sheet only in this block. So I'm going to just take this and declare it globally. So on top here, I will be writing public static control V. And here you can remove this. So this is your complete syntax. Now guys, we created the sheet, we read the sheet, but in sheet also you have rows and columns. That is your two-dimensional array. We reached till here, we reached till sheet number 1 with our code, but now we need to read this rows and columns. In order to do so, you will be first creating object array with rows and columns. So I'll write object, 2 square brackets, name of the reference variable, assign new, again object, and here first I will be passing number of rows and number of columns. So my number of rows will be, right now I don't know number of rows, I want to pick it from my Excel sheet. So formula to pick number of rows from the Excel sheet and number of columns from the Excel sheet is this. You will be simply writing sheet dot get last row num. That means get the last row number. That is my total number of rows, right? So last row number. So from worksheet, please go and get the last row number. And now my column turn is there. So my column, I will be writing in another square brackets. I will write sheet dot get row. I'm choosing this one, get row in row num. Get row, that means get 0 row, index value 0. That means your first row dot get last cell number. Okay, so this is my row. That means give me the last row number. If you go to your Excel sheet, your last row number is your total number of rows. As whenever you declare any array, you tell the total number of rows, like what will be the length of the array, how many rows you're going to create and how many columns will be there. That comes in the square bracket, right? How many rows will be there and how many columns will be there will come in the square brackets. So I'm saying get last row number. That is the total number of rows I want. So my last row number, let's say, is 4. That means 4 rows. And now get row number 0 and 0's last cell. So look at this now. 0 index value. This is my column. This is my column. So this is my cells for it. So get 0 row and last cell now. So here I'm adding number of columns. This is number of rows. Terminate it with semicolon. And now here you have declared your two-dimensional object array with the number of rows and number of columns inside it. Now we will be using for loop to fetch data from two-dimensional array. As if you remember, if you want to fetch data from any array, you use for loop. So here I want to fetch data from two-dimensional array. I will be using for loop for both of them. So first I will write for initialized value. So first is the value from where you want to initiate. So let's say I is 0. I want to start it from 0. Get this I sheet dot get last row num and keep on incrementing it. We'll understand this logic. Let me just quickly finish it. This will be semicolon. And here and inside this, I will be passing one more for loop, but let's understand this. I'm saying this is for row, guys. I'm saying start it from 0 and keep on executing this loop till the last row num. And till that time, please keep on incrementing I. That means starts from 0 plus 1, I will reach to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, till the time it is less than the last row. In simple words, you're going to use exactly this. Now inside it also, you will use for loop for columns now. So for same thing, now variable will be different. Int k is 0. K should be less than. Now I'm using the same code which is written here. So you can copy this, Control C, and paste it over here. And here you can write K++. So this is to fetch the rows. This is to fetch the columns. And now I'll write the final output, that is data, which is name of my object array. And I want rows and columns in it. So my row is I and my column is K. So I, K. And what I want to do, I want to say sheet dot get row I plus 1 and then dot get cell K. I'll explain this to you guys. Then I will write dot to string, and that's all. Let's understand meaning of this line. I'm saying what in this for loop, what I want to do is I want to say keep on adding 1 in my I. So I plus 1. So my row should start with I plus 1 because it is starting from index value 0. I want it from I plus 1 dot get cell. That means, let's see here. I plus 1, that means this is my row. From here my row starts. This was my column. From here the row starts. I plus 1, this one. And now if you read here, so this one is done. Get row, which is my I plus 1. So get the row I plus 1 and get cell K and convert it into string. So if you see here, so get this row and read the cell from here and convert it into string. And at the end, it will be stored in my data two-dimensional array. So this is the formula, guys, to read data from the cell values. And I'm just converting into the string to make it readable. So remember, this is the formula get row dot get cell. That means get into the row and not my first row I plus 1. I is 0 plus 1. So that is my row and get the cell value, store it over here. And at the end, I want it to return me data. Let me just close brackets. So if you see this method here, it's giving you red line beneath it. If you put your cursor, this is add return statement. So let's put return statement, and here it's showing you it is auto populated with data because data is name of my object array. So my object array is returned over here, guys. This is the complete class. Let's understand this from the beginning. First of all, I'm reading a file, my Excel file. I'm reading it. Then I'm creating workbook for it here. I'm reading it, I'm creating its workbook. Then in the workbook, I'm reading the sheets. After that, I've written the code to fetch data from two-dimensional array. First, I said object. This is how you declare any object array. New object. Usually, guys, we write here row number and total number of rows and total number of columns. But as we know, I cannot pass hard-coded values. My number of rows and my number of columns can keep on changing. So I used formula here. I'm saying take sheets last row number. That should be my total number of rows. And then from the sheet, get rows and last cell number. That is my total number of columns. Then keep on executing this, keep on fetching the data from this array, keep on fetching the data for rows till the last row number and keep on incrementing it. Same I did with column. And here I fetched data from the cell. So this is the formula to read data from the cell. Get row I plus 1, get cell key. First row, I want to read data from a particular cell. Then keep on adding it. Read this data, read this data. So this is how it's gonna read it. At the end, you are returning data because this is part of your object array. This is complete thing was in your object array, and we must return because we have said return type is object. So that's why at the end, you must include a return statement. So this is how you can read data from your Excel sheets. But guys, we have written class over here. But in my login test, I need to pass this data too. In order to do so, I will be passing it over here. First of all, we'll create @data provider. So you will write @data provider, and it should be associated with method. So I'm writing public object Here you can give any name, let's say details. Okay, let's first import this. Put your cursor. It's saying add return because whenever you are creating a method and you're saying return type should be object, there must be a return statement, that too in object format, in two-dimensional array format. So first of all, I'm going to define that this object array will be picking up data from where. So this object array should pick data from my Excel sheet, which I've just created, from this method over here. It should pick data from here because my complete data is declared here. Now, here, I will simply write object, you can give any name to it. Let's say result should be stored in this and with two-dimensional. Assign name of my class from where I want to take it. So Excel sheet, this is the name of my class, Excel sheet. Dot, look at this, you get all the methods here. So guys, this is the method which is fetching data from my Excel sheet. So I'm using this method, Excel sheet name. So here you will be substituting the sheet name from where you want to read the data. So let's say sheet name here is in my Excel sheet. My sheet name is sheet number 1. I want to read data from sheet number 1. So I will be writing here sheet name is sheet number 1. Now, as it is asking for return statement, we will add return statement, and in a return statement, we'll return the result. So result will be stored. So result will be picked from this method, stored it in result object array, and then we want to return result at the end. So in simple words, data provider will read data from Excel sheet number 1 and returning you as a return type for this at the rate data provider or object array. Now I want this data to be passed over here in this username and password. So here also you will write comma data provider and simply write down the name of this data provider method. Here you will be simply writing details. Because this details, guys, because this sheet gonna pass you two variables, two parameters, username and password. So that's why in your class also, here also you will write down the two parameters, username and password, because let's understand it. This sheet will be returning us username and password and passing it to details. I'm using this details over here. Now this detail will pass username and password to this particular method. So what I want to do is this details will be passing username and password. So here I have to declare string. Let's say name, comma, string, password. So instead of writing this line here, I will be simply writing name and as a value, I'll write password. Now let's understand this finally. I'm fetching username and password from this sheet. Complete method is written in my Excel sheet class. Complete method is written to read data from this sheet number 1, from its rows and columns. Now this data will be stored in my result object array. And whenever I call this data provider, I want this result to be returned. Now here I'm calling it. I'm saying, okay, I'm calling data provider, passing its name here. Now details, which is fetching data from sheet number 1, will return username and password because in sheet number 1, I've declared username and password. Now, if this details will be passing username and password here, definitely it must be in the parameters. Now in username, I'm writing name. In password, I'm writing this variable, this parameter. password. Here, click on login button. I'm just going to make this line as comment because I don't want to log in with different username and password. First, I want to try without logging, just want to see whether it is accepting different usernames and password from my Excel sheet or not. So let's execute it and see how it works. So we're going to click on run here. So it opened the browser, type the URL. First, it gave me Orange HRM. Then second time, it is passing my first value. It again opened, passing the second value, again opened, and passing the third value. See here, these three values are passed. So this is how you can pass multiple set of data from your external Excel sheet. Guys, code inside this Excel sheet gonna be same. This is just a formula to read data from your Excel sheet. Here, if you want to see that slowly, you can put thread.sleep after each and every step. So here, let's say I want to write thread.sleep milliseconds. You can add throw declarations. Now let's execute it. I'll just simply click on run all. So it opened the browser, type the URL, opened it. Second time it's opening it. Enter the username, waiting. Enter password, again logged in. Enter the second username, waited, password. Enter the third time username and password. So this is how you can implement parameterization, or you can make it data-driven framework. That's all for this video. Thanks for now.